The hypocrisy that one hears coming from that side.
Warmington tells the opposition they're hypocrites. Government and opposition spar over who should chair parliamentary committees. Okay, this parliament is off and running. I'm Dion Jacks Miller. Thank you so much for joining me. Time for tea. So Deputy Speaker Hero Clark is in the chair this week. First thing he does is tell the members of parliament they need to behave themselves.
I wish to remind members of the standing of decorum and respect which are expected of all members.
All right, kind of sounded like a grade 6 teacher there warning the class at the beginning of the school year, not true. But I guess he's been in the parliament for a little while. He knows what could be coming. Now, I'm not going to be giving you a blow-by-blow account of everything that happened in every parliamentary session. I'll focus on specific things. This week, I'm focusing on this debate, this disagreement between government members and opposition members about who should chair parliamentary committees. So in the video I did about choosing the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the leader of government business, I'd spoken about this disagreement about who should chair committees of parliament, and I explained why it had been an issue. You can check that out. I'll link it at the end and down below. So the opposition knew what was coming when leader of government business Floyd Green announced who would be on what committee and who would chair which one. First up was leader of opposition business in the House, Philip Paulwell.
I want to remind the government and the House that they have developed a practice. Good practice started by Prime Minister Bruce Golding, where those committees that were regarded as oversight committees, to promote transparency, to ensure the separation of powers, which is a fundamental principle under which we operate, fundamental principle. That those committees would be chaired by the opposition. And it worked well in the period when he was Prime Minister, when the House shifted and we became government. It was continued and it was lauded by the then opposition. And then in 2016, it continued under the current Prime Minister, and then all of a sudden, in 2020, it stopped. And at the time when it was stopped, we were told that, well, we weren't meeting the mark as chairman, which is not true. And that because you had so many members, you want to make sure that they were active. What have we found since 2020 to the end of the last session? The inactivity was glaring, glaring, absolutely glaring, absolutely glaring. And I am using this opportunity to ask the government to reflect on this position. It's a fundamental position. It's a fundamental position, and it is not in breach of the standing orders.
All right, so you know, so everybody ready for argue now, right? First up was Damian Crawford, opposition member of parliament from St. Catherine Northwest, who, by the way, if you a while forgot, he was no longer in the Senate and is now in the lower house, and he proceeded to give a lecture on government.
Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, we'll get used to it over the next 20 years. Mr. Speaker, what we have here with ministers being on oversight committees is that he or she that should be overseen is now offering oversight. The overseer is now overseeing themselves.
Speaking of lectures, government member from St. James West Central and former Legal and Constitutional Affairs Minister Marlene Malahoo Ford stood up, standing orders in hand.
Government is not just the political directorate. And when the executive makes policy and account to the legislature, the rest of government has to implement and execute those policies. And so it is not true to say that members of parliament on the government side cannot properly perform the functions that are set out in the committees because they are on the government side. It's not true to say that in a wholesale way and without exception, because government is bigger than the political directorate.
Mrs. Malahoo Fort is right. Government MPs, meaning they haven't been named as cabinet ministers, they haven't been named as ministers of state, so they're only in the parliament, they're only in the legislature. So them sitting on committees is an example of the parliament exercising control. The question is, will they? Or how well will they? Then came Dr. Dayton Campbell. He's opposition member of parliament. Boy, it looked like say all the MP them were just come back, couldn't wait for start talk. And maybe especially Dr. Campbell, because he wasn't even in the Senate last time around, so he's been out of bush for 5 years.
In the UK, they have about 650 MPs, members of parliament. For a political party to be victorious, they need 326. But they only have about 120 ministers of government. Therefore, the legislature is not overrun by the executive, as is the case here, because we only have 63. And for a party to win, they need to get 32. And what has happened in this particular instance is that majority of the members of the government side have been appointed to the executive, only leaving 5 of them on the backbenches. And that overrun of the legislature by the executive is what is at the root of this problem.
Opposition leader Mark Golding got up to speak strongly about why he felt the parliamentary committees needed to be chaired by opposition members.
This is about the separation of powers, about accountability in governance, and about how Parliament should have appropriate checks and balances for executive excess. And that is why these sessional committees, which are review and oversight committees, are supposed to be established without the presence of persons from the executive thereon. There is no issue about government MPs being on them, and in fact, the rules provide for the government MPs providing a majority of the members of these committees. And it's based on the balance in a given parliament from time to time. That's in the standing orders. And while in Australia we heard they may think that that is not an ideal situation, it is what governs our parliament. The issue is executive influence, undermining the efficacy and transparency of oversight functions of parliament in our democracy.
I have to say, new members or not, certainly everybody seemed to have learned how to bang the desk very quickly and very efficiently. Then came government member of parliament Everard Warmington, representing the constituency of St. Catherine Southwest.
The hypocrisy that one hears coming from that side. The leader of opposition, who shall remain there, maintains that he codes Mr. Speaker, I will not be distracted by a member who got beaten in central Manchester, run to south Manchester to seek refuge. I ran in southwest St. Catherine all the while, win all the while, the large number of votes. So please, don't. He mentioned standing orders 75-3. Okay? And it says plainly, may. It don't say has to be. It says may. Okay? It's 68-3 said, subject to provision of standing order number 71. A select Sessional Select Committee shall consist of not less than 6 members, including chairman, none of whom shall be minister or parliamentary secretary. All right? So, you can always amend. And I came here, hold on. I came in 1980. And the only other 2 members who served here since then was Minister Chang and Mr. Bartlett. Okay? And since then, they've always always maintained, and his government, notwithstanding Standing Order 75, he approved on his government constantly. So why it's so convenient today? Hold on, man, hold on. I served on committees while your government, and there were ministers who sat on those committees and chaired those committees. He said, notwithstanding, and you hypocrites support it then, live with it then. That's a minute. It has not been changed. No. It has not been changed.
Member.
Bruce Golding came here.
Member, sorry.
Look here.
You're rising on a point of...
The language of hypocrites and pointing to us is unparliamentary, and I urge a member to withdraw.
Withdraw what? Withdraw. What is that withdraw? Hypocrites? Well, all right. I won't say hypocrite. I say hypocritical behaviors. Hypocritical behaviors. There's no way in this standing order that state that opposition members must chair committee in this house. Nowhere in the world does it happen. Bruce Golding came here, made that statement. It's not written inside of here. We are guided by this. It was not amended. It was not amended to reflect that opposition members chair committee. He made that statement. Okay? Unless it is written inside here, hypocritical statements from that side must be rejected. Don't come with that. You voted for it. You voted for it. Oh? You who? Met over Mark Golden. Look here. Don't let me go further than that.
Member, are you
Mr.
through?
Speaker, Dayton, shut your mouth.
Member.
Crystal, thing up, so you have run go want to go seek refuge. Don't talk to me. I don't run.
Member from St. Catherine Southwestern. Remember, you're not allowed to refer to any member by name.
Even the white one?
Mr. Warmington, of course, is correct. The practice of having opposition members chair the parliamentary committees that was introduced by former Prime Minister Bruce Golding was never put into the standing orders as something that should be done. So there's actually no argument at all about whether or not the government can revert to having government members chair the committee. Of course they can. That's not the question at all. The question is, do we get better oversight with the opposition members chairing the committees? All right, so let's wrap it up by going back to the leader of government business, Floyd Green.
There is a fallacy that is paraded around as to whether the committees function better under opposition rule, chairmanship, which was a brief point in our history. And when I looked at the functioning of the committees in relation to how many times they met, it is very hard to discern the difference between when the opposition was in charge of the committees and when the government was in charge of the committees. In fact, with a committee like the Ethics Committee, between 2012 and 2015, it met nine times. It met 9 times. A committee under the change during that same 3-year period between 2016 and 2020, it met 15 times. What you hear the members speaking of is that it depends on the amount of work that the committee has to do. The standing order has some committees that it indicates who the chairmanship is. By convention, we have always allowed the opposition to chair the Public Accounts Committee and the PAAC, and that has not changed. When you look at the UK system, there is only one committee chaired by the opposition, and that's the Public Accounts Committee. Only one committee. And the reason for that, Mr. Speaker, is that despite what has been said by the members, committees like the Production, the Human Resources, the Economy and Production Committee, the Infrastructure Committee, are established to ensure that the policy direction of the government is being implemented through its ministries and agencies. It is not by chance that the PAC and the PAAC, remember the PAC is the committee that has Auditor General reports to, and the PAAC that always had embedded in it a strong oversight responsibility were chaired by the opposition. So, as the member from West Central, St. James, indicated, when you look at the definition of the committees and what they're called upon to do, for you to believe that a member of the government could not effectively chair that committee, I think is a false assertion. Because, Mr. Speaker, I want us to embark on this journey with a sort of sameness of purpose, appreciating that the people have selected a government, that the government is here to work with the opposition. I will suspend the debate. I will have a discussion with the leader of opposition business so that when we come back here, hopefully we are in one accord.
A couple of things here. The government has apparently decided to take the view that apart from the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, PAC, and the Public Administrations and Appropriations Committee, PAAC, that the other committees are not oversight committees. Look at them. Now, the Public Accounts Committee looks at accounts of government agencies and reports from the Auditor General, clearly oversight. The PAAC, the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, looks at government expenditure and administration. But I don't agree with Mr. Green that the other committees aren't oversight committees as well. Look, for instance, at what the standing order says about the Internal and External Affairs Committee of Parliament. It's supposed to examine all matters relating to the foreign policy of government, analyze the implications and the likely impact on Jamaica. It's supposed to look at treaties and other international agreements and their impact on Jamaica, as well as matters relating to national security and administration of justice, and making recommendations to the Parliament. And when you look at the other committees, for instance, Economy and Production, Human Resources and Social Development, Infrastructure and Physical Development, they're supposed to look at policy documents and statements from ministries and government agencies, look at legislative proposals, make recommendations, get submissions from citizens and organize meetings. And I think those are oversight functions. So if that's the premise the government is working with, I think it's a wrong premise. Having said that, I thought Mr. Green got off to a good start as House Leader, other than what I think is a fundamental in his premise, which is really the government's premise, that they're arguing about these parliamentary committees. I liked his tone, and I like the fact that he said he was suspending the debate so that the government and the opposition could have more conversation about the committees. I think that's a good sign. All right, so what did you think? Want your comments? Comments below as always. And remember, like the video, share it with somebody you think might be interested, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Click the notification bell so you know anytime I drop a new video. I'm Dion. Thank you so much for watching. Back to my tea.